In this episode, we'll be looking ahead to the very first race in Diriyah, and I'll be speaking with Envision Virgin Racing's very own Nick Cassidy.
I'll be finding out what your TV remote and a Formula E car have in common.
And I'll be breaking down the greenhouse effect.
All this and more.
Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Ella.
And welcome to the Race Against Climate Change.
We have a very packed and exciting episode for you this week.
That's right, because it is Race Week.
Woo! The first race in Diriyah is taking place this week, kicking off the 7th season of Formula E.
The race is of course taking place behind closed doors due to coronavirus, but we'll all be keeping up to date from a distance via our screens.
But first, do you know what your TV remote and a Formula E car have in common? Well, if you hadn't figured it out, it's the humble AA battery. These tiny AA cells that we probably use every day to change channels are also a part of a Formula E car. I'll let Stephen Lane explain.
So the RES is the sort of equivalent of the fuel tank in a normal traditional car, and the measured units for the storage capacity are kilowatt hours, quite similar to what you'd see on a household utility bill. Currently in the Formula E races we have a 52 kilowatt hour allowance for the race, and that will allow us to do the full 45 minutes plus one lap on a single charge. And with inside the RES, it's over 5,000 individual cells. So those cells are about the size of an AA battery that you put in your TV remote. It's an AA cell, but everyone calls them batteries. So it's over 5,000 of something similar to those. And with inside that as well, there is a control system which basically monitors things like the temperature, what the rest temperature is internally, and that stops any problems of it overheating, because that can obviously cause some problems. So that's an area that's within the rest as well.
So the next time you see a Formula E car go speeding around on race day, remember, powering that ultra high-tech, state-of-the-art, or singing or dancing multi-million-pound speed machine is a lot of AA batteries, just like you've got in your TV remote. And speaking of TV remotes, British viewers can watch this season's Championship Formula E races live and for free on the BBC using the red button on your remote. Just make sure you have batteries in it.
We've probably all heard the term the greenhouse effect before, in school or when researching climate change. It's a pretty important term when it comes to the climate crisis. But what does it actually mean, and is it all bad? I'll be answering these questions in this week's Hot Topic. Carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, the so-called greenhouse gases. They're getting a lot of bad press at the moment, mainly due to the fact that we're putting large amounts of them into the Earth's atmosphere, which is causing the planet to warm up at a rapid rate. But these greenhouse gases are actually really important. Let me explain why. Surrounding the Earth is our atmosphere, a layer of gases that shields the Earth from things like harmful radiation from the sun and helps to maintain a global temperature that makes the planet habitable. The atmosphere is largely composed of the gases nitrogen and oxygen, along with a very small amount of argon. Other gases, such as greenhouse gases, make up just 0.03% of the atmosphere. But despite this small percentage, they play a major role in trapping heat radiating from the Earth. If there were the right levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, this is a good thing. Without greenhouse gases, the Earth would be around 18 degrees Celsius colder on average than it is now. This is way too cold for life. However, as the greenhouse gas levels build up in the atmosphere and become too high, more and more heat is trapped, causing the Earth to warm up. This greenhouse effect is what's causing the climate crisis we're currently experiencing. To understand the greenhouse effect, we need to look at how the Earth naturally maintains a temperature that's optimal for life. The Earth is heated by a constant source of electromagnetic radiation from the Sun, which passes through the atmosphere and is absorbed by the Earth. The Earth then radiates this energy as infrared radiation. Some of this escapes into space, but some of it is trapped by the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. The higher the levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the more infrared radiation is absorbed. This causes the lower atmosphere of the Earth to warm up, and this natural process is known as the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect itself is not a bad thing. The problem is when greenhouse gases build up to unnatural levels, which causes too much heat to be trapped, like we're experiencing in the current climate crisis. But it's not just the levels of these greenhouse gases in the atmosphere that's important, it's also their different potentials to trap heat. You see, different greenhouse gases have different potencies when in the atmosphere. The global warming potential takes this into account, and is a way of measuring the global warming impacts of different gases over a period of time. It measures how much heat 1 tonne of a gas absorbs when compared to 1 tonne of carbon dioxide, and this is useful as it allows us to compare the impacts of different gases. This helps us to understand why methane and nitrous oxide, 2 other greenhouse gases, are much more potent than carbon dioxide, despite the fact that there is a smaller concentration of them in the atmosphere. For example, methane has a global warming potential over 20 times larger than carbon dioxide, and nitrous oxide has a global warming potential that is over 200 times that of carbon dioxide. These are really large values, and mean that these gases will absorb much more heat than the same weight of carbon dioxide. This is why small changes to the levels of these greenhouse gases can have a significant impact on the global climate. However, despite the fact that it has a smaller global warming potential, carbon dioxide is still causing the most warming, as we're releasing much larger amounts of it into the atmosphere than these other greenhouse gases. To complicate things a little, water vapour is actually a greenhouse gas, and the most predominant one too. However, water vapour behaves differently to other greenhouse gases. The amount of it in the atmosphere is more affected by the climate crisis than causing it. A warming global temperature causes the atmosphere to become humid, causing a positive feedback loop of more warming. More water vapour leads to more increased warming, which leads to more water vapour. And the warmer our planet gets, the more things start to go wrong as delicate natural cycles are disrupted. That's the situation we see developing around the world at the moment, and that's why we urgently need to cut global greenhouse gas emissions.
Now for a reminder of our Formula E VIP competition. One lucky Formula E fan will be invited to Envision Virgin Racing's state-of-the-art race headquarters at Silverstone to tour the factory and garages where the Formula E engineering magic takes place. They'll also get to sit in a Formula E car and have a coach session on the racing simulator that the Envision Virgin drivers themselves train on. For anyone, this would be a visit to remember. For a Formula E fan, it's a dream come true. To be in with the chance of winning, all you have to do is answer the 3 questions that will appear in each episode and email your answers to be entered into a prize draw towards the end of the season. All the details are in the description below.
Here's this episode's first question. Question 1. Approximately how many AA cells are in a Formula E car battery?
Last episode, our race to become a net zero family by the end of the year made us take a closer look at how we can reduce the carbon emissions that come from our energy usage.
In this episode, we explain how we throttled back the carbon dioxide emissions associated with using our family vehicle. Let's take a look. According to our world and data, transport accounts for approximately 1/5 of global carbon dioxide emissions. This equated to 8 billion tonnes of CO2 in 2018, and road passenger transport accounts for 45% of this. And with global transport demand set to grow and road transport emissions' effect on climate change and air pollution, it could be argued that we are driving ourselves towards our own demise. When we recently calculated our own family's carbon footprint, out of the 7.55 tonnes of carbon dioxide emissions we're responsible for, around 4 tonnes were down to our family vehicle, a diesel van. It was clear that if we were going to achieve our net zero target, we had to sacrifice our cherished adventure mobile. So not that long ago, we traded it in and replaced it with a small hybrid family car. Now, we actually really wanted to go fully electric, but at least this was a positive first step to take. It's worth saying that we really appreciate that not everyone can afford to make this step. And to be honest, we had to think very carefully before committing to it. But from an environmental perspective, it was something we just couldn't afford not to do. We had to make it work. The hybrid car that we have is a standard hybrid, which means that it's self-charging and doesn't need plugging in. Self-charging hybrids use regeneration to recharge the battery. So that's where the energy released by braking is used to run a generator, which then recharges the onboard battery. The engine can also be used to recharge the battery as well. Fast forward a few months, and using a clever little app that comes with the car, we can see the impact this hybrid vehicle is already having. As we get more and more used to driving a hybrid to get the maximum benefits, our electric vehicle driving time should increase. And even when we're not driving on electric, the fuel economy is much better than our old van, meaning our emissions from burning fuel will be drastically reduced. Whilst the car itself comes with its own carbon footprint, it's helped us to do all we can as a family to cut our own carbon footprint from transport. We've already noticed significant cost savings resulting from the combination of electric vehicle driving and increased fuel economy. So it's a win for electric driving, a win for saving money, a win for reducing our carbon footprint, and a win for the environment. A win-win, win-win situation.
As always, there's an accompanying guide, this time on electric vehicles and hybrid cars. Check out the details in the description below.
Next time, we'll be looking at other forms of transport, like trains, buses, and planes. Question 2. What form of radiation is re-emitted by the Earth?
So we're just days away from the opening race of Season 7, and what with postponements due to coronavirus, it's been a long time coming, and both race fans and race teams are looking forward to the double-header in Diriyah with much anticipation. It's eyes forward to Diriyah.
Okay, team, it's eyes forward to Saudi Arabia, eyes forward to Diriyah.
At Diriyah, a town northwest of Saudi Arabia's capital, Riyadh, and host to the first race of the Formula E 2021 race season. With the nickname of the Pearl of Saudi, Diriyah has become a popular tourist hotspot, with luxury resorts being developed, as well as fine dining, hotels and entertainment. But Diriyah is not all razzmatazz. The town is steeped in history, and the heritage site of Ataraif is the original seat of power of Saudi Arabia's Al Saud family. The mud brick ruins and interconnected pathways and alleyways are now no less than a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And with Diriyah renowned for its 350 days of sunshine per year and sweltering daytime temperatures in the summer, there won't be many people arguing about it being a night race under low-energy LED floodlights. In last season's opening races in Diriyah, the Envision Virgin Racing team enjoyed a successful race 1, with Sam Bird getting a win for the team and Robin Friends finishing an excellent 5th. Race 2 in the desert-based doubleheader was a different story altogether though, with both Envision Virgin drivers failing to finish. So how will new driver Nick Cassidy fare on the tricky Diriyah circuit in his first competitive outing for the Envision Virgin Racing team? And will Robin Friends be able to get his season off to a podium clinching start? All will be revealed in the first ever Formula E night races in the Diriyah doubleheader on February the 26th and 27th.
We're so excited for race 1, and to up the excitement level even more, here's a Race Against Climate Change exclusive interview with Envision Virgin Racing's new driver Nick Cassidy, in between simulator sessions at Silverstone and just days before he headed out to Diriyah to compete in his debut Formula E Championship races. Let's hear what he had to say. Hi Nick, thanks so much for joining us today on the Race Against Climate Change. It's so awesome to have you.
Thanks for having me on. I hope these questions aren't too difficult. I'm a bit nervous.
Oh, I'll try not to be too tough.
Perfect.
So the first race in Diriyah is obviously, really fast approaching now. And, the Diriyah course is known to be quite challenging because of the hills and because of the dust being in a desert. So it's also a night race as well, though. So what's it like driving by LED lights alone? Do you find it has a significant impact on your driving?
To be honest, I'm pretty impressed with your research. It sounds like you almost know more than me. Yeah, I think, look, it's going to be a really, really tough first event. It's nice being a rookie, being able to go to Saudi, having the 2 races, because hopefully I can put into practice what I've learned on day 1 into day 2. And yeah, as you say, both under lights, which I think is very exciting for not only myself, but the whole championship. And to answer the next part of your question regarding the lights, I don't really have much experience of that, so I have no idea. It's going to be something we're obviously taking into consideration, how the shadows are because of the amount of walls you have on a street circuit, and your turn-in points and all your references from the simulator with the work that we do in Silverstone pre-race. Those things can change with different lighting. And even simple things like looking at the steering wheel is not so simple, because we change a lot in the car, and they're very complex. So yeah, in terms of first event, it's just adding to the challenge.
Yeah, definitely. It certainly sounds like it's going to be a tough start to the season, definitely. And Diriyah is also a double header as well. So do you have a sort of different strategy for a double header, or is it kind of played similarly to a single race?
I think, yeah, it's like I say, you try to take what you've learned from day 1 into day 2, and it's easy for me to go, I'm going to improve for day 2, but there are 23 other guys out there who are thinking exactly the same thing, which makes these weekends very, very interesting, very unpredictable. In terms of myself being a rookie, there's probably more to gain from that, whereas the experienced guys naturally come out of the box quite strong on day 1. So not necessarily a strategy, just a difference in experience level.
Yeah, and as you said, this is of course your first season as part of Formula E, which must be really exciting, but you'll obviously have had a lot of practice, I guess, in the simulator at Silverstone, but how much chance have you had to actually get in the car and practice in the car itself?
Yeah, it's been a tricky one. I think the simulator is always helpful, but nothing beats real time in the car for sure. And I've been quite lucky in terms of I've had a test with Audi and Envision Virgin prior to Valencia. Obviously, I did the Marrakesh rookie test last year as well, which was 1 day. So all up, I've had 6 days of running in a Formula E car, which is probably the least amount of anyone on the grid. But that's the way it is, and yeah, it's a challenge, so make the most of it.
Yeah, and you're obviously going to have a different situation, I guess, as well with coronavirus, with the impact that's had on everything, which I guess must just be an extra challenge as well. But I know that, for some sports in particular, having actually a live audience there to watch is actually a big part of whether a team sort of, wins or loses the game. So is not having the public spectating going to have a big impact, do you think, with it being a behind closed doors event?
As I don't know if you want to call us athletes or sports team or what kind of description to use there, but in terms of a team, I think it's important to not let that change your performance, all those external factors. We always try to be 10 out of 10 in every area that we can. It's not always possible, but that's our goal. However, it's more from a personal feeling point of view that you want to have a big crowd there, and you want to see people around and supporting. So I hope the online viewing numbers are strong, and a lot of people can still watch the race and see what we get up to, and that some normality can return soon, and we see everyone back at the track.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you're going to have loads of people cheering you on at home virtually through
I hope
their
so. Thank you.
spectating. Yeah, and actually, you know, one of Formula E's really distinct characteristics, I think, from, you know, something that I really noticed from my first time watching it is the noise difference compared to other motorsport events, or, you know, should I say the lack of the noise, really. And this must be a big change to kind of adapt to compared to driving petrol cars. So what's it been like to adapt to a Formula E car?
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously in a naturally aspirated car, your combustion engine, you're listening to different noises to get your sense on throttle response, you know, speed, power, acceleration. And I think in Formula E, we almost can take that for granted now because you get on the throttle, and with the amount of torque that we have and the battery power, how instant it is, it's always right there. So yeah, that's the same for everybody in the field, which is another cool factor. And then it kind of leads you into a different part of driving because you're listening to tires and other kind of sounds that maybe you can't hear in other categories. So certainly interesting. Yeah, has its I think positives as well. It's not all negative. So that's been cool to discover.
And, you know, obviously a key reason why this is the case is because Formula E is fully electric, and, you know, therefore, you know, a big part of Formula E is actually the education and the innovation to tackle the climate crisis as well. So would you say that you have a message that you would like to give around addressing climate change?
I think that the main thing is not a personal message, but a message that we're giving as a team and as a series, how we're trying to change that. We're not only racing in an efficient way, a sustainable way, but hopefully we're educating a few viewers as well, and more people can support this direction, which I think's becoming more and more obvious. And yes, it's an important thing for everyone to think about these days. So as a message as a whole, I think everyone's been doing a really nice job with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that is one of the really great things to see as part of Formula E, and one of the really unique things as well. Yeah. So finally, without giving too much away, of course, how would you describe your driving style to someone who is going to be watching you for the first time in Formula E? And, you know, what would you say your strengths are?
For the right price, I can give everything away. That's no problem. No, I'm just kidding. So it's an interesting one because I think when you come into a new category, your driving style's always evolving and trying to adapt to this new challenge. I would say I can be quite adaptable usually, aggressive in some ways, smooth in others. Yeah, it's probably one of my strengths, I would say, how I can adapt to those different styles. But yeah, check back in with me in a couple of months, and I'll let you know more.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Nick, and best of luck with the race in Diriyah, and of course for the future races as well.
Thanks very much for your time. It's been awesome. Cheers.
Thank you.
Love it or loathe it, Fanboost is an integral part of Formula E. But we decided that we wanted to put a bit of a spin on it. So instead of just the driver getting a boost, we want to give an Envision Virgin Racing fan a bit of a boost as well. So every Envision Virgin Racing fan boost made by a Twitter will be entered into a lucky dip. At the end of the race, we'll randomly select a winner who'll receive a piece of Envision Virgin Racing merch signed by Robin Frines and Nick Cassidy.
All you have to do is tweet #fanboost followed by either #Robin Frines or #Nick Cassidy. And remember that you can vote once a day from 6 days before the race up to 15 minutes before the race starts.
The more times you fan boost Robin or Nick, the more chances you have of winning a piece of Envision Virgin Racing signed merch.
Question 3. A self-charging hybrid car does not recharge the battery by... And just as a reminder of how to enter the VIP competition, take a look at the details in the description below.
Well, that's about it for this episode. We really hope you enjoyed it.
Next time we'll be joined by a very special guest, the Distinguished Professor of Atmospheric Science, Michael Mann.
It's going to be really cool. Until then,
Bye!